Meeting number 21 of fiscal year 23 of the Westborough Advisory Finance Committee. Today is Monday, February 27th. Pursuant to Chapter 107 of the Acts of 2022, this meeting will be conducted in person and via remote access in accordance with applicable law. This means that members of the public body, as well as members of the public, may access this meeting in person or via virtual means. In-person attendance will be at the meeting location listed on the agenda that was previously posted on the AFC website. It is possible that any or all members of the public body may attend remotely, with in-person attendance consisting of members of the public only. This meeting may also be accessed remotely via the link posted on the aforementioned agenda. When required by law or allowed by the chair, persons wishing to provide public comment or otherwise participate in the meeting may do so by in-person attendance or by accessing the meeting remotely, as previously noted. Additionally, the meeting will be broadcast live in real time via Westborough TV, Verizon Channel 28, or Charter Channel 192, and concurrently recorded, and as soon as possible after the meeting, posted to the Westborough TV YouTube site. This evening, we are going to be discussing Warrant Article 12, the library building improvements and design. We have three guests with us. Library Director Maureen Amiot, Trustee Chair Mary Johnston, and Trustee and Building Committee Chair Ed Baldwin. So, ladies and gentlemen,
Good evening. I'm Maureen Amiot, Library Director, 6 Arch Street.
And I'm Mary Johnston, 5 Sandra Pond Road, Chair of the Library Board of Trustees.
I'm Ed Baldwin, 25 Mount Pleasant Street, a trustee and the chair of the Library Building Committee.
We are before you today seeking funds for a repair project at the Westborough Public Library. As you may recall from the special town meetings in the fall, there are a number of issues that need attention at the library, and we are seeking funds for the design work to begin to address these issues. We heard the clear message last fall that the proposed expansion was too big and too expensive, and that voters wanted us to repair and reuse what we currently have. This article is our first step in that process.
Did you want to share your presentation?
Oh, is it not sharing?
No.
no, it's not up there.
It's not up there.
There we go. That was not me.
It was just a picture of the library.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're planning this to be a 3-phase project. It will involve doing all the necessary repairs as one project over a short time period, rather than coming back again and again for piecemeal repairs. In order to bring the town the most cost-effective project, we're seeking funds now for the required studies, design work, a schematic design, and preliminary cost estimate. That work should take about 7 to 10 months. Once it's complete and we have the opportunity to share it and get public input and feedback, we'll bring another request for funding to create a detailed design, bid documents, and a solid cost. That work takes about a year, so we would plan to be back one final time in October of 2024 or March of 2025 to seek funds to do that phase of the work. It's important to note this project is going to repair the existing library building. We will not increase the square footage or expand the footprint. Part of this work may also include reconfiguring of our interior spaces so we can maximize the efficiency of the way we use our space.
What we're asking for today is a total of $360,459 to pay for the architectural design and engineering studies, including structural, electrical, hazmat, and fire protection, among others. This also includes funding for the owner's project manager, which is required by state law on all municipal projects expected to cost over $1.5 million.
So why are we doing a repair project? The original library was built in 1908, and the expansion was added in 1980. There are a number of issues that we'll talk about in a moment, including systems that are past the end of their expected life, no longer meet building or safety codes, and quite a few projects that were deferred in anticipation of a construction grant from our state agency. When town meeting rejected the renovation and expansion project in October and December, the $9.4 million grant was lost, but our need to repair the building remains. The current library has some major infrastructure issues that need attention, and some of this will probably be a review from what we've already discussed before. Two critical ones are the electrical system and the roof, but there are many others. As we've mentioned before, the electrical infrastructure is inadequate for a modern library. In staff and public areas, we had to seek help from an electrician to safely link power strips together in order to run all the computers we need. There's no place to easily plug in a cell phone or charge a laptop, and we know how important these tools are for connection and research. Have you ever seen a light switch like this one?
We used to have them in our house in Marlboro.
Yeah. We have several in the library that are actually connected to old knob and tube wiring in the old building. Our beautiful slate roof on the 1908 building is original, so it's now 115 years old. Roofs of this type usually last 100 to 120 years. A full assessment is needed to determine the extent of the repairs needed or whether replacement is warranted. Many of the tiles are cracked or broken, and the pins that hold them to the roof are deteriorating. You can see here where non-matching materials were used in the past to replace missing tiles on part of the 1980 edition. The result is warped tiles that have soaked up water and need to be assessed to determine whether water is infiltrating into our attic space. The windows in the old building are the original single-pane windows that were installed in 1908. They're rotting and need replacement. The exterior woodwork, as I explained earlier, is held together in places with putty and paint, and we can feel drafts coming in through the frames of most windows on the main floor. About 2 weeks after the December town meeting, we had a small fire in one of our ceiling-mounted fan units on the main floor of the library. A patron who was working nearby saw smoke and alerted staff. Staff pulled the fire alarm and evacuated the building. That unit is offline right now while we assess whether to repair it for $8,000 or replace it for $25,000. The fan units throughout the building are from the 1980 edition and are past end of life. Parts are very difficult to obtain, and our technician has had to fabricate parts in the past when they weren't available. At the very least, the fan units need to be replaced, but we'll also study the cost to transition to electric heat pumps. Full electrification will be required by the town's climate action plan and by state law in the not too distant future. So that's a project we'll either do now or wait to do down the road. We know construction doesn't get less expensive, so if it's cost effective to do it now, we'll plan to do so.
The study that we will complete in this phase will help us determine the complete picture of work that needs to be done. Again, these are some of the essential deferred maintenance items that are known issues to the library. The architects and engineers will review the past studies that have been done on the building and will take a deeper look at the things like the walls, the roof, and the windows by doing test borings, poking holes, and removing slate tiles to examine what's underneath. Engineering studies done by the architects and specialized consultants will include structural, fire protection, hazmat, plumbing, HVAC, and civil/landscape. All of the data will be reported back to the Library Building Committee and shared with the public, and a plan will be formed to fix the critical issues. This plan will give us a comprehensive, planned approach to fixing the building, rather than something like the piecemeal approach that has been proved to be expensive and extremely time-consuming in Hastings. The architects anticipate that defining and documenting the exact scope of the repairs will require a transparent process, including multiple public presentations and interactive meetings to raise awareness of the project and to gather feedback from the community. They plan to develop multiple scope scenarios, potentially with several add/deduct alternates. The design team will prepare a high-level design and narrative descriptions that will be the basis for a preliminary cost estimate. We would bring the resulting design and the cost to a future town meeting for further discussion and to decide if we wish to go further into the design development and creation of biddable documents. It is expected that this repair project would trigger a full ADA compliance, along with the other codes you see listed here.
To sum it up, there are significant repairs that are needed on the aging library facility. We deferred many projects over the last 10 years with the plan that our state grant would help cover some of these costs. The grant is no longer available, but the need is still critical. The building cannot continue to operate in the condition that it's currently in, and funding this design work is the first step towards getting the repairs done that are needed. We heard the message from town meetings in the fall that voters want us to keep the building as it currently exists and fix these problems. Adding this article to the warrant will allow us to begin this critical and time-sensitive work. We are ready for your questions.
Okay. Questions? Andrew?
May I ask how you arrived at this specific dollar figure that you've mentioned? And the context of my question is, I'd hate to think that we have the right idea and the right plan, but we've under budgeted what's going to be needed and you may need to come back for that first phase.
The cost is based on pricing proposals that were given to us by the architect and the OPM.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry. The gentleman who's joined us tonight. Couldn't see his name on the screen. Any other questions? Melanie?
Go ahead.
Well,
I'll just go one quick one. So the previous proposals in version 7 had the number at 347, now it's at 360.
Yes.
Explain the differences.
We had not included hazmat testing in phase 1 of the project. And after discussing that at the library building committee meeting last week, it was the sense from the building committee that we wanted to include that, and some feedback that we got from you as well, that it should be included in phase 1. So the architect provided the cost for that he got from the hazmat engineer, and that got included into the number that you see here.
Melanie?
So is it the same company, the same engineering and, what's the name of it? The architect company that we used for the last
Yes.
bid? So they can't take elements out of that because we knew stuff needed to be repaired when you brought that to town? They're starting from scratch? Why would that be?
No, they'll use information that they gained, but they'll do a little bit more in-depth investigation into the existing conditions.
Especially in the 1980 part of the building, because that was a building that we anticipated removing. So they need to study further, with that staying in place, what issues we have there.
And then at the town meeting, everything seemed much more dire, and it still looks like you're a year to 2 years out.
Correct. It is dire.
dire.
It was dire at town meeting. It's dire now. And the fact that a fan unit is caught fire because it was at end of life, I think, is evidence of that.
No, I know, but I'm just wondering why you can't move up the schedule any.
Because we have to go through the process.
Well,
We
if
can't just,
They can't use any of the elements of their original bid.
no, it doesn't. That's not how
Okay,
construction
just
projects
asking.
work. We can't just like pick and choose out of their project. This is a completely different, completely new project.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Yeah, one of the reasons it's dire is the previous grant took probably 3 or 4 years longer to come to fruition than anticipated when applied for, so that's what it is. It wasn't going to happen
Things weren't
sooner.
quite as dire in 2016 when we submitted the grant application, and then having to wait as long as we have.
Right.
has not
And
helped.
just to, on Melanie's point, the 1980 building was being completely destroyed before, taken away. So there's no information on that in the renovation design. And then pretty much hollowed out the whole other, so the old part was all getting hollowed out and part of that removed. So there was much less concerns on the reuse of it versus this is, you're leaving the building substantially intact. So it's a very different process and design thought.
And that's exactly why the library building committee really wanted to include that testing in this phase of it, because there's a lot of information that we don't know. And so we thought doing that now would give us a better picture of what we're looking at in order to plan for moving forward.
Pete? Tom, any? Uh, Go ahead.
Just a breakdown on the priorities 1, 2, and 3. It's a little, might be premature, but some of the optional recommendations, like the screen wall system for the exterior, and, you know, just kind of the level 3 stuff, if those are pennies on the project, or if there's any
None
breakdown
of that's included in, like, we really don't know what we're designing yet. That's the reason for the study. So those are some of the things that they think might be part of the project, but we won't really know until they get in and start doing the work,
Makes sense.
if that makes sense.
So, go ahead. No, please.
So just one clarification. So you said for a project of more than $1.5 million, you need an OPM.
Correct.
And I'm not sure that that's correct because the school board considered projects for more than
1.5 without an OPM. So if we could
That's-
just, if we
that's-
could just double check on.
I double checked
or
on that
so-
this afternoon, and
okay,
that's
so-
actually state law. So
Okay, if-
they
I-
probably should they should have an OPM on their project.
You just threw them under the bus.
Maureen, can you send
Well,
it to
they
me?
had
Because
it.
I'm curious about that.
They had an OPM at Vales. Are you talking
Yeah.
about like roof
Hastings.
repairs?
Yeah, or Hastings or-
I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe they do.
Well, somebody will answer that question.
Yeah, okay.
Not for
Yeah.
us to this. So it's the article is considered repair and renovation, and you talked about reconfiguring some of the rooms. What is it about the current space that doesn't meet present needs for programming, and what do you foresee as programming needs that we need to do more renovation?
We really would like our architect to look at how we use our space and help us think through how we could use it more effectively. Is there a way that we could angle shelving or just move different functions into different locations in the building so that we can maximize every inch of that building? We're not going to be able to meet the program needs, as I discussed at length the last few times. But we want to do the absolute best we can with what we have. So they're just going to help us kind of think through some issues like that. Does that answer your question?
Just to throw out a couple examples, right now the teen room is sort of spanning the main entry, which is not an ideal place for it. We have one meeting room, and it would be nice to have some small study rooms. To my mind, we're looking for reconfiguration. You know, if the people are going to be in there tearing things up to do the ADA compliance and the electrical code and everything else, and we can improve functionality by building an interior wall and putting a door in it to make a meeting room, we might as well do that, rather than leaving that for another sometime down the road and close down the library and all that. But we want to know what the costs are and sort of look at the benefits and trade-offs, and that's a big part of what this schematic design process is going to be for us, to find out what the costs and trade-offs, particularly for the priority 2 and 3 things, in the course of our meetings and the public meetings and so on, decide which ones make sense to do from the cost and the benefit perspective. And then we'll come back with the real plan, the final design of what we want to actually do, and that will incorporate the decisions we've made as a result of the schematic design process.
Yeah, I understand that. I just, I'm looking at repair because I think the message that we got from town meeting was repair what needs to be repaired. And when I hear renovation and I hear reconfiguration, my mind automatically goes to now we're going to be increasing cost above and beyond repair. And so I just want to get some clarification. Doesn't have to be tonight on, because when you start doing things like that, then you start triggering compliance issues, as you've pointed out. So I would like some clarification on the whole thought process and what you're seeing as future programming that requires reconfiguration of the building. I get the teenager, I mean, I understand that, but, when you said it, my mind went to, well, why do they need individual study rooms? you know? So
they-
I'm just, that's.
I'll write up something and send it
It
to you.
doesn't- I'm not looking for, you know, a report. Just the next time we meet, if you could clarify some of those issues, that would be helpful. What's the current,
say
oh,
something?
I'm sorry, Ed.
Just one other comment. As I understand it, a lot of the compliance issues and code compliance, they will be triggered by the base repairs because of either cost or whatever. And the renovation, the reconfigurations would be
Okay,
side by side.
okay, that's fine. Walter?
Yeah, and, I mean, the reality is, the point of this study is to be able to answer your question more properly. The point is not to answer that now, because we need to know what Ed said, which is the cost benefit of building this room adds an extra, you know, $20,000 or add an extra $2 million. Okay, one is
Agreed.
too high and one, gee, that makes sense, and somewhere in between, you know, there's some line. And so the whole point of the three-phase approach here is we're not comfortable making the choices of what to do now without more information. And so, because otherwise we would have come with a design cost and then come back with a build cost. But unlike some of the other projects in town, it's not clear what needs to be done, what can be done, and what are the costs. And I think, as Ed said, when you're routing new electrical lines, some stuff to reconfigure, that's the time to do it. And it may not cost much more.
Yeah,
And it
understood.
optimizes the space. So I just don't want to, I think that, to me, the point is that we're trying to get, we can't have the architects work for free. We need some money for them to work. And so this smaller amount is really to get the ideas going and to be able to provide understanding for the group to be able to make those choices.
Okay, clear, but I wanted to make sure that those issues are considered when the architect is looking at all of these other things. Could you tell me what or tell us what the current assessed value of the building is? Because I noticed that you had noted the architect did not have it correct in their proposal. Do you know what that is right now?
Yep. Yep, 2.395 million.
2.39,
Yep.
okay.
And it just had changed. In fact, I think Ed noted that December, at the January meeting, but when he did his work, he was based on what it was.
Okay.
So that gets the threshold for the 30% point somewhere in the 700,000
Yep.
range.
Yeah, okay, that's not a lot.
No.
Right. No,
Tiny
it's not.
stretch of the information. Okay, thank you. I have no, Andrew?
Just one thought, and that is that, and you may already be doing this, is that you have a user base that's in there on a regular basis, and they might be a fine group of folks to start polling for ideas about what they see or what they would like. I know that there's public hearings, I know there's public opportunities, but I also know that even things like meetings and stuff are hard for people to get through, whereas you have an opportunity to present or collect information for the next X many months for the actual on-hand users. So just a suggestion that I'd recommend that that's an opportunity to take advantage of.
Yep, it is absolutely something that we are planning on, especially between phase 1 and phase 2. Because as we
Excellent.
gain more information, we can see what direction the building could go in, the possibilities, and then what people want from that.
Sure. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you, folks. Appreciate
you.
your being here this evening.
Thank you.
And
To the agenda.
okay, moving on. Next order of business is approval of the minutes of February 23rd. May I have a motion to approve, please?
So moved?
Second?
Bradley, second.
Any discussion? We'll go to a vote. Andrew, Melanie, sorry.
Board abstain.
Bradley, yes.
Dolan, yes.
Leslie, yes.
McMahon, yes.
Shafford, yes.
Moretti, yes. Okay,
601.
601. Are there any liaison reports for the evening? Okay, school committee meets on Wednesday evening. There will be a review of the budget and a few other items of interest to us. I will be there either in person or view it on Westborough TV. Future draft agendas, just for your information, on Thursday evening, we will have the town manager and Ms. Marshall from the Select Board, and Mr. Conklin, who is the author of a citizen's petition to do away with the climate action plan. That was Article 37 until version 8 came out today. I think it dropped to 38. Okay. We have extended invitations to the DPW and to the planning board to join us next week. It looks like planning board is going to be unable to do that, but I'm waiting to hear back from Chris Payant as far as Monday's meeting is concerned. So we at least have a meeting on Monday, and I'm sure we'll have something for Thursday. I thought I'd give the superintendent a chance to get through this snow business tonight and tomorrow before we asked her to appear about the school committee articles. We know that the one article they're going to have to appear on is the Hastings general bid article, and that's going to be on the 23rd, so it'll be 2 days before town meeting. We will vote on that article that evening, even though it will not be in the R&R, which will unfortunately already be at the printer. So right now, that's where we're at. I think Walter and I have discussed the voting issues. You can anticipate that on the days we have scheduled for voting on articles, they're going to be potentially long meetings. So,
Can you just clarify Thursday's meeting, which articles we're going over?
we're going to go over, hang on, let me go through my paperwork here. Oops.
Article
On-
16?
Got it? Yeah, Article 5, 7, this is the town manager, 5, 6, 17, and 35. Shelby will address Article 30 for certain, and there's some question about whether or not she can address the Hockomock Pond, or whatever, Hockomock Pond that evening. And Mr. Conklin will make a presentation, which he already sent me on, which is the article, which is now Article 38. I will send you a copy of that presentation within the next 24 to 48 hours. Okay? Yes, Andrew?
May I ask also that the the town managers speak to any updates she may have about the folks who are moving into the town, at the state facility?
Oh,
The migrants.
The migrants
yeah.
or the,
Yeah.
yeah.
Just any line of sight
Okay.
clarity to plans, timing, costs,
Yep.
that sort of thing.
Okay. I'll make
Thank you.
sure that she's aware of that.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Anything else?
Yeah. So is the reason she can't speak to that? I notice in the warrant, I guess there's still no actual sum of money for that, right? Or it's
Yeah,
not thought out, or?
she said the last time we spoke that there was still some information missing that she would like to assess, and then she'll get back to us on it.
So that might be a late one, too.
It could be a late one, yeah. All right, anything else, folks? You guys are getting spoiled with these short meetings. Okay. Can I have a motion to adjourn, please?
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
Second.
Discussion? Let's take a vote. Melanie?
Board, yes?
Bradley, yes.
Dolan, yes.
Leslie, yes.
McMahon, yes.
Shafford, yes.
Moretti, yes.
Chairman, oh, thank
I-
you, Westborough TV.
Thank you all. Sorry, those of you who attended, just out of curiosity, we can't entertain you longer. John,